All right, our next step is going to be finishing your mug by pulling and attaching a handle to it. So, the first thing you're going to need to do is take your mug out. Hopefully, you wrapped it up really tight in a plastic bag for the last couple days. If you haven't wrapped it up in a plastic bag, it's going to be too bone dry and you cannot attach things to bone dry clay. Okay. Your mug should look about leather hard. So, it should still have moisture in it. It should be kind of grayish. If it is very soft, you're definitely going to want to leave it out. And I like to leave mine out for about 30 to 40 minutes and just to let it get a little bit firmer before I start to pull a handle. Okay. So make sure you take that mug out, leave it on the table. Next, you're going to want to grab some clay. And I like to wedge up my clay a little bit. I just use all my scraps, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So I have all my scraps from creating my mug. I've got my right hand on the top, my left hand on the side. And remember, when you're wedging your scraps, you're going to press down with your dominant hand and use your side hand to kind of keep that clay together. You don't want to stretch it out really far. You just want to press down and roll back towards you to kind of get it in that spiral motion, kind of like that. Okay. I'm not going to use all of this clay. I am going to rip it in half and I'm using about a handful of clay. You don't need a lot, maybe a half a pound to make some handles. You want to kind of roll it out on the table so it's kind of like a nubby carrot. You want it to be like a sugar cone kind of shape or a carrot shape before you start to pull your handle and add water to it. And you're really going to focus on the bottom portion of it. Pulling a handle is a little strange at first. The easiest way to do it is to use that OK symbol and put pressure with your pointer finger and your thumb. Okay. You need to use water to help kind of keep that handle from sticking to your hand, and you wanna kinda pull straight down with it, and I like to move the clay around. If you do press too hard, you will rip your handle off, okay? So your left hand is staying dry, my right hand keeps dipping in the water every so often, and I'm pulling straight down using that OK symbol. I want my handle to be about the height of my cup before I thin this out. So there's 2 ways you can thin it. You can use your 2 fingers together like a scissor motion to kind of press the clay and pull straight down. I like to use my thumb in front of me and aim it towards the ceiling and press with my thumb against my fingers with the clay in between. And that way it's going to start thinning it out. So you can see from one side it's wide, but when you rotate it, it's getting thinner. Okay. So you want it to be in that direction where you look at it from the side, it's a little bit thinner. From the front, it's definitely wider. And then you can bend it in the shape you want to attach it in, typically, which is like an ear shape or half a heart. Okay, so it'll attach where my hand kind of is, would be the cup, and my handle would go up and around like your ear does. Okay, you're gonna need a wooden board or something to lay these on, and you don't want to leave them out for an extended period of time, about 15 minutes is all you really want them to kind of lay on their side and dry. So I'm going to gently lay my handle on the side in the shape I want to attach it in, and then I'm going to use my needle tool to cut this off. So I'm kind of showing you that curve shape. I like to cut it so I've got some extra, so that way I can always trim it down and make it a little bit smaller if I need to. I recommend you using the rest of that clay to make a second handle. And I like to make two handles for every cup just in case something goes wrong. Okay. So you can see, again, I'm using that OK symbol to kind of pull my clay straight down. You want to go with gravity. So you want to hold that clay in your hand with your dry hand and then use your wet hand to pull the clay straight down. Okay. So you're using that OK symbol just to make it as tall as your cup is and then thin it out. Either using your hands in that scissor motion or your thumb to pull straight down, and then the same kind of thing, you're gonna bend it around, in the shape you wish to attach it in, and then cut it with your needle tool. Since you're making 2 cups, I recommend making 4 handles. So you'd have 2 handles per cup. Like I said, it's just in case something happens, one dries out, you drop them on the floor. Basically anything that could go wrong can go wrong with your cups. So you just wanna make sure you've got extra just in case. So I'm pulling my 3rd handle from that same chunk of clay that you saw me pull from earlier, and I'm using my fingers to kinda smooth it out. That scissor motion by using my index finger and my middle finger just to press the clay between them. Or, like I said, use your thumb to pull that clay by aiming your thumb vertical towards the ceiling, pressing with the pad of your thumb into the clay, and your fingers are behind the clay to kind of grasp it. And then you're going to bend it again in the shape you want to attach it in. You will get better at pulling handles the more handles you create. A pulled handle is the most ergonomical, so it's going to fit in your hand the nicest. It's also going to be the most reliable and dependable when it comes to actually maintaining the shape of your cup. So I'm going to let those sit for about 15 minutes and then revisit them.
Okay, so my next step is going to be to make this the right roundness and shape that I want. I also have a little bit where the seam was that I want to trim down. So I'm going to need two things. I'm going to need a needle tool and a straight edge or a ruler. Okay, you can see right here, this is taller than the rest. So what I'm going to do is take my ruler and my needle tool and just draw a line on here that shows exactly where I need to cut. Okay, and then I can go back and carefully trim that off. I got water, and I'm gonna just use my fingers and a bowl of water just to smooth this out. You can use your sponge too, but mine cup has been sitting for about 30 minutes, so it is a little leather hard. So I'm just gonna smooth all this out. So I'm pinching and smoothing out the whole rim of this surface. So I'm gonna look at it, make sure it's the shape that I want. Okay. If you want to smooth any of this stuff on the sides, you can use your metal rib and vertically smooth it. If you get it wet first, so add water. But you want to make sure that your cup is nice and smooth, and then decide where you want your handle to go.
All right, so now you're going to grab those leather hard handles, hopefully about 15 minutes. They should be kind of firm. When it's time to attach your handles, you want them to be the same dryness. See how I can kind of wiggle this? It's holding its shape really nicely. It's not too dry, it's not too hard. It is the same dryness as my cup. Okay, so what you want to do is hold it behind your cup and kind of trace the shape of your cup onto the handle. It just gives you a nice place to cut with your knife or your needle tool. Um, and then I'm going to kind of tap it on the table just to make sure it's nice and flat on both ends. Okay. What I really like to do is look at it from the front and the side. So if you look at it from the side, you can get a good idea of where you want to place it, but you want to make sure it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to take my needle tool and trace around the edge of the handle on both the top and the bottom. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of mapping out or marking where I need to slip and score on my cup. So you can see right there, I've got a big chunk on the top and a smaller chunk on the bottom, all mapped out. I'm going to wet my rake and I am going to slip and score this together. And you do want to really score and really get the cup surface wet. Same thing with your mug handle where you're attaching them. So I'm slipping and scoring both parts, not just one. Okay, you want to get it like a Velcro. This is a key part for your handle because you don't want this to fall off. Okay. And now I'm kind of pressing and blending. My hand is on the inside to support it. And you want to make sure you look at it again from the front so your handle's nice and straight. So see how my handle is straight? I don't see the bottom. I can see the top part needs a little reinforcement. So I'm going to take a little tiny piece of clay, roll it out, and place a baby coil, is what I like to call it, in that space. I use the side of my needle tool, not the pointy part, but actually the long stick as a blending tool. You can use any of your tools in any way that you want that's going to work for you. But this is my biggest tip is to use the end of it to blend that baby coil into your handle. You really want to reinforce that seam. So you're not just doing just the top, you're also going to use the tool and get the inside. You want to make sure that you get line to completely blend away. This is tedious, I know, but it's super important. Otherwise, your handle can fall off. And now I'm just adding a little bit of water and kind of blending it in to get rid of any bumps from the extra clay. And you're going to do the same thing to the bottom now. So I'm going to take a little bit extra clay. I'm reinforcing that joint or seam where the handle attaches to the cup. From blending, you do lose a little bit of clay. So you want to add a little bit just to kind of reinforce it. So again, I'm going in with that needle tool. I'm blending those two parts together. Okay, you want to make sure that these are very attached, attached really, really well. And then once your handle is attached, I kind of blend it again with my finger and I never pick up the cup by the handle. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Make sure it's fired first. You can handle it by the handle all you want after it's fired, but until then, it is not going to be secure. And I want to make sure it's going to hold my fingers. So I'm just kind of putting my hand in there. I'm not picking it up just to kind of figure out how many fingers I can fit inside that handle. And then I'm going to wrap it up and let it sit for 24 hours. And that's about it.